Good morning and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Parker. My name's Reverend Rick McCollum and I'm the senior minister. I'm glad that you're with us today. As we begin this service, know that wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you're welcome here with us. At Center for Spiritual Living Parker, we recognize that there are many ways to have a relationship with the God of your understanding. There are many paths to the one God, one Spirit, one power, one presence. So wherever you are, know that you are welcome here. And we're glad you're with us this morning. I would like to begin by lighting of our unity candle. The unity candle represents that light of spirit, that flame of the divine that is within each and every one of us. And that's why we say that we recognize and honor all paths to God. So thank you for being with us today. At Center for Spiritual Living Parker, we have a 30-year goal, and we like to say that together to remind ourselves of what it is we're about as a spiritual organization. So would you say this 30-year goal with me? The Center for Spiritual Living Parker is a global resource to help people discover and live their spiritual truth. And that's what we're about, discovering and living our spiritual truth for each and every one of us. As we continue our services this month, we're looking at mindfulness for mavericks. And today we have Reverend Phil Tapp, our youth minister, who will be speaking to us on mindful speech. So I welcome Reverend Phil, and I'm glad that he is here to speak to us and teach us today from his wisdom. Happy Father's Day to all fathers, to all people who are nurturing as a father. You don't have to just be a male to have that male energy, for we all combine both the male and the female in our lives. And so I bless and honor all of us today as we celebrate Father's Day. And for those of you who are fathers, I say, happy day. I'm glad you're with us. And now, let's move into our time of music and meditation.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed.
The purpose of my meditation tonight is mindful speech. I sit amongst the redwoods. I can feel the spiritual energy that surrounds me. that incredible power of the trees that are hundreds of years old, huge, towering to the sky. And yet, as human, I can cut those down. I contemplate on that, appreciating the beauty, the wind through the branches, the quiet, the sponge-like ground. And I know that through carelessness, through greed, through expression of my defects that every human has to face, I can destroy this forest with my actions. Mindful speech. I can destroy or create. The power of my words. The gift of my tongue. My mastery of the language. Am I mindful of the strengths and vulnerabilities of all that I interact with? So as I start that question in my mind, I relax my body. I close my eyes. I hear the wind rustling through these branches, surrounded by majestic redwoods. I feel the peace. I feel the energy. Timeless serenity. And as I settle in, regular breathing, deeply in, slowly out. I relax my muscles. I settle my feet. I ensure my spine is straight. And I open my mind to receive. That sixth sense, that intuition, that God voice. I ponder the question. Am I mindful in what I say? Is God on my shoulder? Am I listening to that small voice? Compassion, calm, love. Maybe it all comes down to just that one incredible word. The synonym for God. We are all one. I know my speech reflects only love. I know when my state of mind is settled firmly in love, the divine energy attracts the other person, opens their heart as it opens mine. I know that the pause between the words carries divine energy the open hearts connect. And I speak only with love. I listen. I listen deeply, knowing that at all times the divine exists in and of that person that I have engaged. I see past any racial memory. I see past any inherited or life experience that separates this divine entity from their own personal and intimate contact with the divine. I embrace the divine in them. I allow myself to be vulnerable, knowing we are one. That energy bond strengthens. And all the artificial situations or inherited bias drops away. And we are one with the divine. I accept it, I embrace it, I know it, I release it, and I ensure that close grasp, that intimate touch is always foremost. And so it is.
This day is a witness, my sacred purpose to all that I'm meant to be.
Morning, friends. My name is Reverend Phil Tapp. Welcome to CSL Parker Sunday morning. Today is Father's Day. So as we go about our business today, we will keep Dad in mind, knowing that Dad, who does so much for us, constantly in a mode of giving, often as we, compared to the Father, like Jesus would compare to the Father. So today I'd like to honor briefly my own father, Larry Tapp, and I'd like to do so by lighting our unity candle, which we've been doing every week. And so, Pop, this one's for you. So I'll breathe just a little bit. I'm going to take a few breaths here. And I'm doing this mindfully, just as Dr. David would have us do on the first week of this month when he talked about mindful breathing. And last week you saw Reverend Rick bring you mindful intentions. All this in our monthly theme of mindfulness for Mavericks. So I'm grateful today to have the opportunity to talk about mindful speech, and in doing so, I intend to hopefully be able to offer some things that a little bit different perspective here. So I'm grateful you're here. I'm grateful you're at the kitchen table, and as promised, you are free to come up here and to eat from the ideas that I offer you. And it is spiritual gumbo, folks, so as is usually the case, feel free to take what you like and leave the rest here. You can come back and get it at any time. So, mindfulness for Mavericks. There's a couple of different things in there. I think that, when stopping and considering some of this stuff, I thought first about mindfulness, and then I've got, we have the traditional definitions for those, which I'll get to in just a little bit. But one thing that I thought of is I thought about Mavericks, right? And instantly what comes to mind, sadly for me, is I will always associate that with the 1986 movie Top Gun with Tom Cruise, where he's the fighter pilot, right? Does everybody remember this? Raise your hand at home. It was such a bad movie that it was, it's completely emblazoned in my mind. And guess what? For those of you who are fans of this, you would not believe this, but they are planning a sequel that was supposed to be out later this year. It will be out late 2021. So Maverick and Iceman are going back to the danger zone, folks. Don't run, don't walk to the theater for this one. So Maverick. What does a Maverick mean? What is it? Maverick, I think it's the idea, Reverend Rick alluded to it last week in talking about that it's got everything to do with doing things differently. Doing things differently, being a little bit of a trailblazer, being a little bit of a, not conforming to, societal standards. And what's so beautiful about the way that we do our maverickness in Science of Mind is we have a proven process for our spoken word that is palpable, it's repeatable, and in a very large capacity, it is our greatest offering to the world. It really is. It's our greatest offering to the world. So before I get to the power of the word, I want to kind of get a little bit up to snuff a little bit on some ideas surrounding, mindfulness and how we get to being in the spot of being mindful, because everything throughout the course of this month is a progression. It is all about us learning to use the creative cycle and to use the creative process within the individual and to use it better, to continue to grow and change and expand in our understanding and use of it. So we begin with the mindful breathing, right? And I think the point with the mindful breathing, at least for me, it's about getting into that space of a meditation space where we know that that's where God is present. God is present in as close as our breath, right? When we take the time to breathe, we take the time to notice, And what we're doing there, particularly if we take it into a much larger form of meditation, what we have an opportunity to do is to begin to do what was so lovely and the perfect song title for today, picked by the music team, which was Witness. So what we do in meditation is the practice of meditation overall allows the space between thoughts to begin to expand, for them to get bigger, for them to get larger. And it is in that we actually are able to experience some degree of peace. And we are also able to experience some degree of what they would call cultivating the witness. We begin to see that we are not actually our thoughts. We are not what we think about. We are the one who is back there at the back, and I kind of liken it back to being back here, looking in and choosing which thought to follow when it comes forward. So we cultivate that witness, and we do so with the practice of meditation. That's how it works out, and it increases the space between the thoughts, so we are able to move from being mindless to being mindful. Now, interestingly, I will have another definition of that for you here shortly, but mindlessness, I would equate that to this idea of the yammering that goes on, where the thoughts are coming so quickly that we are not able to discern which thought system we may be coming from, because I still firmly believe that we are coming from love or we are coming from fear in all kinds of different forms. So we are able to cultivate that witness and choose which thoughts to follow, which leads to what Reverend Rick talked about last week, the power, the mindful intent. And that is really the idea of, okay, well, now I've chosen which thought I'm interested in here, right? Let's say, if you're like me, I'm going to sit there in meditation and there'll be a thought. There might be a second or two, and then there's usually another thought that comes after it. So I pick which one to follow, and that is me exercising my power of choice and my power of intent. That's what that is. It's me choosing the focus. And this gets into all kinds of quantum mechanics type stuff, where we talk about it from the point of the observer or the witness. And what we know is that what we choose to focus on is what the law ends up saying yes to, right? Now that is true just under just insofar as the thought actually is able to move from our head to our heart. And it must do so via the means of the voice. The voice simply must speak things into being. I mean, that's how it appears in the book of John. That's how it appears in the book of Genesis in the Bible, is that the word, the spoken word, was what was created. And we are made in the image and likeness of that, which has created us. And therefore, what we speak speaks into existence as well. I wanted to offer you a little bit of a reading today. It's not something that we've done an awful lot of here because we haven't been meeting. And this reading comes from a pamphlet. I guess you could call it a pamphlet or a little mini book from Ernest Holmes called Pray and Prosper. Hopefully you can see that at home. This was first published in 1944, and this is an edition of the 10th printing of 1974. So I am fairly certain that this is out of print right now. This came to me via Reverend Rick, who gave me a box of books that had been given to him by Reverend Alma. So thank you both, and I'm sure that you're going to like this reading. What is prayer? We pray either to an infinite mind or an omnipotent power. Prayer is always some form of communion with the universal. It reaches its highest possibility when it rises above the limitations of any existing circumstance. This is why Jesus told his followers not to judge by appearances. Jesus did not deny the appearance. He merely said, do not accept it as the only criterion. How could anyone arrive at such a faith unless he knew that he was dealing with a power which can rearrange facts and create new ones? A belief in the invisible is the very essence of faith. Prayer, or spiritual communion, demands a complete surrender to the invisible. It knows that because the creative power of God is at hand, all things are possible. Man is powerful because he deals with power. He may become wise because he is immersed in wisdom. Thus, he has an inexhaustible source from which to draw. Whatever our idea of God may be, the perception of reality is always an inner perception. As Moses tells us, the Word is not afar off, but in our own mouths. And Jesus, that the kingdom of heaven is within. The prayer of power is not so much a petition as it is an inner recognition. And thus we arrive at mindful speech and our unique contribution to the world. Science of mind and its unique contribution to the world. We pray differently. That is what we do. We pray differently. We pray from the source rather than to the source. We recognize that God is working through us, don't we? Yes, we do. That is what we do. We do not ask that something be fulfilled. We know that it is fulfilled. And that is a much different way to pray. That is a much different level of acceptance, a much more, dare I say, mindful way to deal with living, to make a demonstration. See, folks, mind is a synonym for God, is it not? It is a synonym for God. So when we talk about this idea of being mindful, what we are is we are full of God. When we talk about being mindless, it is interesting as well because it doesn't mean that God is absent, because that is impossible, but it means that we have less of our attention or intention focused upon that which we would have work through us. So to be mindful is to be in the position of demonstrating the power of God working through you. And the contribution of Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind philosophy is a 5-step power for us to utilize our voice to create. To create. Because what it does is it moves it from the head to the heart. It does not happen until it is spoken into being. It simply must be spoken. And our process of the 5 steps of treatment of recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and release ensure that our word will be as powerful as it can possibly be in any moment. When I recognize and speak my word knowing that God is working through me, in, through, and as me right now in this moment, I recognize that that power and that presence is everywhere. It is everywhere. It is omnipotent. It is omniscient. It is, what's the other? Omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Wherever there is a little bit of it, all of it must be. And I choose my focus. I focus on it. It becomes real. It becomes real by my choice of volition to focus on it. In so doing and recognizing that if that is all there is, then that I simply must be a part of it. That is the only logical conclusion that can be drawn. That's it, my friends. That's the only thing that can make any sense to me. What makes sense to you? It makes sense that love has made me like itself. It makes sense that I have been created and that I am imbued by the image and likeness of the Creator. So in knowing that I am unified with this source, I know that I have at my disposal the same great power in microcosm that this creative source has. It is unlimited in its scope and frame, and it is up to me to utilize this practice to continue to spiral upward in spiritual evolution, where more things in the spiritual buffet may be available to me. So in realization, I talk about all that I am. And I am like God. That's what I am like, because I am one with that source. I am love. I am peace. I am communication. I am what I am speaking. And I am grateful. That is the only thing that can happen in recognizing that one is one. And I release this, which what that means is that I know that it is the truth, and it is done, and I am satisfied, and all is well. So that, my friends, is what mindful words are. They come from intent, and we use the process of spiritual mind treatment to speak them into being. The question may come, why, if I have spoken this, has it not happened? Well, I sat yesterday morning and spoke about peace, love, and understanding for a little while, and it sure doesn't seem to be manifesting in my life. I would contend that is probably because more treatment is necessary. See, we tend to not treat as often as perhaps we probably should. We tend to still use prayer as my friend Bill Wilson from Alcoholics Anonymous would call it, as a bit of a bush league pinch hitter. Why do we not use it as our first choice? Let's be daring. Let's be the real mavericks that we are. And let us move into doing treatment on a daily basis. That's what Ernest Holmes says. He says we are to treat daily until the new condition manifests. And I can think of nothing that is more important in these times that we are dealing with right now than to use the power of prayer and to use it in an affirmative way that is going to bring about the change in consciousness that we desperately need to see in these times. It is not likely to happen by relying on the Bush League pinch hitter. We're talking about God here. Let us utilize it as much as possible. To those of you who say, I don't know how to treat. I couldn't do that. Well, we simply must begin where we are at. Most of you know that I work an awful lot with teens. And what we do is we spend time doing group treatment together, and they are still very frightened of doing some of these things. But they are overcoming their fear. They are learning to trust God working through them, knowing that whatever comes out of their mouth is what is supposed to come out of their mouth, because it is practice, not perfect. So we must practice. Practice, practice, practice. What is our practice to be? And as is the case, when I first started off treating, I was very afraid. I was afraid. I did not have that confidence that I now possess today. And I'm quite certain that in 10 years, I will look back and say, man, my confidence level is much different now. I am manifesting at a different level as a result of the practice that I have put in. And wow, I will probably marvel at all the things that have been spoken into being by my volition, and that the law has acted upon to manifest. So I offer this to you. Begin where you're at. Begin where you're at. Take time daily to use your intent and to use your spoken word, because the spoken word creates the feeling in the heart, which leads to the action of the feet. And that will be what Reverend Rick speaks to next week. I would like to offer to those of you who are newer to the science of mind philosophy within our congregation, and or anyone else that is watching this that has an interest. If you would like to learn to pray more effectively, we are offering a class Tuesday nights at 6:30 to 9:30. Spiritual Principles and Practices. It is an accredited CSL course. You will receive credit towards it or towards practitioner training with this course. And so I challenge you, friends. Why have a Bush League pinch hitter when you can have Ty Cobb at the bat? Happy Father's Day. I love you, Pop.
Now we come to our time of offering, and I invite you to share your support with the Center for Spiritual Living Parker. You can donate by clicking on the box at the top of the screen. You can go to our website and click on the donate button, or you can give via Zelle, whatever is most comfortable for you. If you'd like to mail in a check of support, then we'll be happy to accept that, and we'll put up on the screen the mailing address for any correspondence or checks there. It's the address of the TEC building where we have our office space and classroom. Thank you for donating. And now let's say together our offering affirmation. Together, Spirit is my source of infinite supply. With gratitude, I give freely, and I remain open to receive the abundance of the universe. And so it is. And now our offering song.
Talent, time, and treasure is what we have to give. It's what we have to share, and how we live in the law of circulation, just passing on the gift. Talent, time, and treasure, we are blessed. We are blessed. Talent, time, and treasure is what we have to give. It's what we have to share, and how we live in the law of circulation, just passing on the gift. Talent, time, and treasure, we are blessed. We are blessed.
As we close our service today, I invite you to pray with me as I give our benediction. Know that as you go from this place, you go guided, guarded, and protected under the umbrella of the Center for Spiritual Living Parker. You are held in God's embrace. Thank you, Spirit, for this day, for this lesson, for this teaching and opening our hearts and minds. Help us this week to be aware of our speech, to be mindful of our speech and our intentions, so that we share with the world your nature, your unconditional love living through us, your peace, your joy, your love of life, that flows through us each and every day. Help us to give form to that in all we do and all we say. And so I bless each person that has listened to this message today, that has been with us online. I bless this spiritual community, and I know that we go forward strong and powerful as spiritual beings, living the life of spirit manifest on earth. I release my word into the law that always says yes, and join me in saying, and so it is. Blessings to you. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy your week. Spend some time this week noticing your speech. And are you mindful? Are you sharing life-giving verbiage with people? Are you sharing your love of life and the world with all those around you? Bless you. Have a wonderful week. I look forward to seeing you back here next week. Namaste.
To be humble, to be kind, it is a giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is a thinking that the heart can still be saved, and the darkness can come quick. The danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibility, and heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. Treat each other when the day is done. We are peace,